with state grant funding. That is a competitive grant, so we're not getting our hopes up, but we sure hope we'll be able to do that. If so, it will allow us to stretch those tax dollars farther. Okay, professional services, advertising, and publishing. So we start looking at how these MCAs are dealing with those, but they're related to potential capital bond issues. So you'll find expenses in these different areas. Airport development, we've just made the third $500,000 commitment that the council made through their resolution. So council committed $2.5 million over 5 fiscal years. We were able to fund the first year of that within the general fund. Since that time, we've utilized interfund borrowing as well as using that foregone amount that I reported on earlier, $216,000 per year. So we are moving that ahead as well. That commitment should be finalized within 8 years. So moving ahead, special revenue funds. These are the special revenue funds: streets, community playfields, 1912, and the transit center. And special revenue just means that they are supported through revenues other than taxes, although they do have support of taxes within there. So you've got your street fund revenue. You can see where that's gone. It's gone up a lot. 2015 to 2016 was because of the increased gas tax authorized by the state legislature, as well as increased funding from the general fund to the street department. Street fund revenues, you can see, on a steady incline. They were fairly flat here, as I indicated. They were being funded at approximately $300,000 to $400,000 per year. In the last 3 years, we've gone up from that significantly: $700,000 in FY2017 and $872,000 proposed in FY2018. So these are some of the highlights. As you can see, we've got storm main replacement, downtown streetscape, sidewalk, keeping that program going, wayfinding signage, pavement management, again, $872,000. Mountain Road STP urban project of $20,000. We have proposed funding for the 3rd Street multimodal bridge construction, estimated at $580,000, which has been funded through a transfer of general fund capital accumulation back into the street fund. That's also included in the budget. Just wanted to take this opportunity to say I know there have been some misinformation out there, or misperception, that the 3rd Street multimodal bridge was part of the bond issue. It has never been. Council has never directed that that would be part of the bond issue. It's being proposed to be funded from general fund accumulations in the capital fund. So that is the source of that funding. Moscow School District Community Playfields Funds, 16 was the first year that it was actually in operation, so we're continuing to kind of feel out how that's done. There are some issues, ADA issues, that we're dealing with. In fact, the Parks Department, I believe, is putting in a concrete pad and some walkways in order to make those brand new fields even more accessible to the mobility challenged in our city. 1912 Center, we talked about that a few moments ago, and the Transit Center, the ITC Intermodal Transit Center, located on Railroad Street and Sweet Avenue. That facility was funded with grants, participation from the city, and it is on a piece of land that is owned by the University of Idaho. The city owns the building, and the tenants in the building are Smart Transit, as well as the university transportation and parking services. So there is an issue that we have to deal with in the very near future, and that is the sidewalks. The sidewalks over there were not great to begin with, a couple of winters, and they spalled very badly. We attempted to address that with an overlay. The overlay did not take, so the only alternative, according to our engineers, is they need to be demoed and removed and start over. So that's about a $50,000 program. Culture and Recreation Funds, again, these are the 3 separate funds underneath that. We've combined these funds for revenues. We'll talk about revenues and expenditures. You can see the trends up here. And some of these areas here are because of capital projects that went on. We're accounting for those in a little different way, so you might see some spikes as we go into our long-range financial plan, hopefully, and we get our financial programs even more tuned in, that you won't see those spikes. Let's see. Okay, this is the pool. As you can see, the revenues and expenditures. Pool expenses are in the blue, revenues are in the orange, so we're getting closer. We proposed a balanced revenue and expenditure depending on the year. If it's a year that's cold, revenues are not very high. If it's a year that's hot, revenues may be high, but you're also going to have very high expenses. So they tend to balance each other out. Parks and Rec highlights. We talked a little bit about the Hamilton Fund. What the idea is to provide for children-age playgrounds in the parks to promote development and development of those undeveloped parks at this time. In the FY2018 budget, you'll see a transfer proposed of $205,000 in Hamilton funds, which will be utilized for Indian Hills Playground. Indian Hills Playground is currently being funded in this fiscal year. Council authorized that. I believe it was $140,000 if my memory serves. The $205,000 is for Milton Arthur Park and, help me out, Dwight? Atani Park. So that'll make hopefully 3 previously undeveloped parks usable, at least on a incremental basis within the next year. So that's a big kudos to Parks and Rec and to the council for utilizing those funds for that purpose. Then we have the community playfields funds. Again, it's only been in place for 1 year, so we're still feeling our way through the expenses on that. The arts fund has decreased a little bit. The reason it's decreased is because there is some grant funding in there. We had proposed a full-time market manager in the arts department. We were hoping to get a grant for that. That grant was unsuccessful. Now we split it out, arts and community events, so you'll see a much more realistic amount in the arts fund. This is the progress of the 1% for public arts. As you can see, and this is those funds have been spent on. You can see they were maintained till Helioterra was promoted and constructed, dropped down, and it's been building up. This is pursuant to the council's 1% for arts ordinance. That increases the arts fund, public art fund, by 1% for public projects financed by the city. Arts highlights, we've refocused the department. The arts director, part-time arts assistant, part of the arts assistant time has been allocated to farmers market and community events. So community public art, they've got the library installation for public art this next year as well. Community events highlights, as you can see, consolidates management and accountability, full-time market community events manager, and does coordination. For these are the ones we've identified at this point. As the mayor knows, there are requests all the time for additional community events, and we want to make sure that those are focused and we're able to account for those in a performance-based way. Enterprise funds, water capital, sewer capital, sanitation capital. These are business funds. So as you can see, the council's always been, and the residents are interested in, where does the city of Moscow's rates, water's down here, next up is sewer, and the top one is sanitation, how do they compare to our surrounding communities? As has been pointed out many times, when you have a city the size of Moscow, you can spread those costs out over more utility payers. If you take the per capita and therefore rate costs in a city the size of Troy and you have a major sewer or well renovation, those rates are up as well. So you're kind of mixing apples and oranges here, but again, it's good information. Water capital. This is how it's done. 6.3% is proposed for 2018 as a rate adjustment. That was done pursuant to the 2013 rate study. That study was commenced using FCS out of Seattle. We had a committee of citizens, business people, we had a council member on it as well, to go through our capital plans, our operational plans, so on and so forth, to take a look at what a rate was necessary in order to finance those. Some of the big things we've had happening: a loan from the Department of Environmental Quality, drilling of well number 10, the well number 10 water main project will also occur in 2017, and as it indicates here, phase 2 of well 10 project will be constructed in FY 2018 and is funded there. We also have the booster station improvements that were moved forward in order to address pressure issues as well as fire flow issues and capacity throughout the city. Has been a big project, and it's taking a lot of water and water capital to move that ahead. Sewer, happy to say that our wastewater treatment plant is performing admirably. We continue to deal with the issues of temperature. Les and his people are continuing to do studies regarding the EPA and DEQ regulation of temperature. Those continue to be studied, and there may well be renovations coming down the road that need to be funded, but as right now, until those studies are complete, we're unable to tell you exactly what those are. As you can see, there's transfers going on to fund the Comprehensive Sewer System Plan, Wastewater Treatment Plant Master Plan, as this talks about the trunk line phase improvements, of which the work on 6th Street to Line Street was also included earlier this summer. Just got 6th Street paved and opened on Friday afternoon. So next year there'll be another chunk that's going to be done. So that's huge. As I just indicated, those improvements will have occurred 6th Street to College Street in FY17. Sanitation Sanitation Capital, I'm happy to say that the rate study committee looked at this in 2016, and a 0% rate increase was recommended. Part of that, and really the benefits of that are that with the roll cart program, with the curbside recycling, not curbside, what's it called?
Single stream.
Single stream, sorry, thank you guys. Single stream recycling, that has been done with very little increase. And with accumulation of funding, those rates are really doing well to keep pace with the services, so no increase at this time. There is an increase in tipping fees at the solid waste processing facility, and that's in order to keep pace with our transport contract. And we amended disposal agreements with Latah County and the neighboring cities, mainly because in the rate study they looked at collections within the city versus disposal rates, and we were out of whack. Collections was in fact subsidizing disposal. We've brought that back into balance this year, and it'll take another couple of years to get it done, but we're moving that ahead. These are some of the proposed projects. Expansion, relocation of the recycling center. We are moving forward with strategic planning, and a comprehensive plan for sanitation, which we've never done, will be pursued in 2018. Miscellaneous funds, fleet information systems, and debt service. These are just some of the things that were acquired in 2017. These are some of the things that we're accumulating money for. So we're moving forward with these purchases as necessary. As I indicated, the department that utilizes the particular asset is allocated with paying for that asset, whether they are general fund, enterprise fund, internal service fund. Debt service fund, as I indicated, that's where we receive the revenues on the $10 million proposed bond issue, and where we also pay the debt service on that. That's where you will find the debt service for the Hamilton Low Aquatic Center remaining debt. LID debt service fund, there is no outstanding debt. In LID construction, we continue to move forward with promoting gravel street paving program, sidewalk program, and then any other programs if there is any additional funding. Capital projects. Just very quickly, if you look at all of these capital projects in FY18, playground equipment, 3rd Street multimodal bridge, pavement maintenance, which, by the way, was funded in street operations up until this year. It got to be a significant enough number that we felt more comfortable utilizing the capital account, so that's why it's been moved. That line item has been moved from operations into capital. White Avenue Underpass Project, which you will hear about tonight, 6th Street Safety Improvement, Storm Main Replacement, so on and so forth. And these continuing programs and programs that continue to be accumulated. Okay, these are where we're accumulating any capital monies that we have. I won't go into each of those. The list is very close to the list that you just saw. So, where the money comes from, revenue by source. So you look here, you've got property tax, which accounts for about 7.3% of our entire budget, so on and so forth. Charges for services in the enterprise funds are huge for building permit fees, so on and so forth. We've got fund balance, which is accumulated funding that is accumulated for projects, any balance that is left in the funds. Capital transfers from the operating funds into the capital accounts. Operating transfers, we have a small water loan, 0.29%. So as you can see, there are a lot of areas where we get some funding. Some of it's not very much, but we aggregate all of that into the funding for the budget. Where does the money go? This is just the corollary to the last slide. And you start looking at the different costs. Enterprise funds capital outlay by far is the largest outlay of funding that we have. We also have general government, public safety, so you can go through here and see where those funds are going. Debt service includes not only the debt service fund, that also is debt service for the sewer revenue bonds that are outstanding as well. So with that, I will take a drink of water and you can ask me any questions I might be able to answer.
Gary, thank you for hammering through that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what you just witnessed is things that we hammered over a number of months, and this council has seen every one of these documentations in detail that we've worked through, and thank you for the great example there, Gary, so folks out there in the audience can see just exactly how it goes, because it's a process that this council and I myself take extremely seriously about what we do and how we do it and where the funds come from, and building of the infrastructure and moving our city forward, because we need to do that. If we don't do that, somebody down the road will really have an issue with it. I'll give you a quick example. I don't know who anybody in here that might have read it or might not have seen the situation at Lewiston is going in. Their manager that's going to be leaving that talked about as much as $100 million in infrastructure projects that they need to get completed, and it might even be more than that. They really don't know, and that's why it's important that we accumulate, we move forward with funding to get things done, and we need to chip away every single year as we're going along. If we don't, down the road we'll be in a position where it'll be problematic for our city. Questions for Gary before I open the public hearing from council? Thank you, Gary.